Hi, I'm Lisa Steele. I'm an author, blogger, and fifth-generation chicken keeper. I live in rural Maine with my husband, flock of chickens and ducks, 2 dogs, an indoor-outdoor barn cat. We moved to Maine for the peace and serenity. We wanted a simpler life and to step back in time where there are still corner stores and your neighbors know your name. Welcome to my farm. It's hard to believe that it'll be spring in just a couple days here in Maine because we still have a foot of snow on the ground, but we already have buds on the lilac bushes and the birds are starting to come out, so spring is definitely around the corner. Everything's mucky and wet for a couple weeks and then finally the ground dries out and then it'll really be spring. The chickens definitely notice that spring's on its way because we've been adding a couple minutes of daylight every day since the shortest day of the year. They're definitely happier about being outside, and I think some of them are even thinking about being broody. A lot of my chickens are 5, 6, 7 years old, and most of our ducks are as well. My new chicks and ducklings from last spring have been laying straight through the winter, so they'll continue. And it's so exciting when it starts to get warm because I look forward to new baby chicks and ducklings. I'm keeping an eye on my hens because if one of them goes broody, I want to be ready to get her into mom mode and get her hatching or raising some baby chicks for me. This is a really bad time of year for predators. Everybody's hungry. We've caught a fox on our trail cam a couple times out in the daylight. The hawks are getting really bold. It's been a long winter. There's not a lot of food. They might have babies to feed soon. So it's a really, really bad time for predators. So I don't do a lot of free ranging this time of year just because of that. Today on the farm, I'm gonna get some seeds planted. We've got a super fun Easter craft, and then I'm gonna make one of my favorite Easter recipes. One of the most fun things about raising chickens is, of course, their eggs. And it's even more fun when they're different colors. When we first started raising chickens, we just kind of inadvertently picked all brown egg layers. Growing up, that's what color eggs my grandparents' chickens laid, and I didn't really think about that there were other color eggs, but it didn't take too long before I realized that there are chickens that lay blue eggs and green eggs and of course white eggs. So it's really fun to have a colorful egg basket, especially around Easter because every day feels like Easter. This is Amy. She's a black Americana. You can see that she has these cute little cheek puffs and a little beard. Because she has virtually no comb or wattles, she's really cold hardy. Despite having originated in South America, Americanas are really great in Maine because normally frostbite would occur on the comb and wattles, and since she doesn't have much of either, she's really, really well suited for our farm here in Maine. Because she's an Americana, Amy lays beautiful blue eggs. So this is Mean Kate. She's Amy's sister. Mean Kate is a blue Americana, so she's the same breed, just a different color variety. This is Clarabelle. She is a lavender Americana, so a third color in the same breed. She also lays blue eggs, small comb and wattle. Clarabelle is kind of the clown of the flock. Super friendly. She follows me around like a little puppy dog. She's my girl. Completely different personality than Mean Kate. And Clarabelle also lays, Clarabelle, this is your egg. Clarabelle also lays pretty blue eggs, You can kind of see a trend here. I really like pretty eggs in my egg basket other than brown or tan. So these three are all same breed, different color varieties. This is Abigail. She's Amy's cousin. So it's Abigail Adams and Amy Adams. But she's their cousin because she is an olive egger. So she's half Americana, but half a brown egg laying breed, probably a French Morans because they have the dark brown eggs. So she has the same cheek puffs and beard as the Americanas, but she has a little bit bigger comb like a Morans would. And she also has feathers on her feet like the Morans have. So she's a mixed breed and she lays olive green eggs. This is Sage. She is one of our new girls from last spring. She is a Favicana, which is a new designer breed that's not really technically a breed at all, but she's half Faverol, half Americana. So what they did was take the blue egg-laying Americanas and cross them with Faverols that lay sort of a cream-colored egg. The thought was, since Faverols aren't very hardy, they're really timid, and Americanas tend to be a little bit more aggressive, by mixing the two breeds, you would get something like a happy medium. Sage is a mix of the two breeds, and she still has the cheek puffs, a very little comb. She sort of has feathers on her feet because Faverols do have feathered feet. But her name is Sage because she lays pretty sage green eggs for me. So far she's been good. She's again very cold hardy because she has the small comb, since both of her parents were small combed breeds. Now that you've met some of the girls that lay the beautifully colored eggs, I'm gonna head back to the house to do some fun Easter crafts and show you one of my favorite Easter recipes. Dyeing Easter eggs and doing Easter crafts is fun no matter what age you are. It can bring back a lot of great childhood memories, but it's even more fun when you get the kids involved and pass those traditions on to a new generation. Finley and I are making a super fun craft today. We're gonna make these little chicks that sit in egg cartons with some jelly beans. Great gift for a teacher or one of your little friends, or to put on your Easter table. So the first thing that we need to do is put some grass into your egg cartons. So we have all different colored paper grass, so you can fill each of the little holes with some grass. And then we have some cotton balls, and Finley cut out some little beaks out of felt and eyes out of black felt that we're gonna use to put onto our baby chicks. So then we take a cotton ball and glue, here's the eyes and the beaks, and you can glue one of those onto your cotton balls, and I'm gonna make one too. We're just using toothpicks and some tacky glue to attach our little chick faces. So Finley's working on hers. And then we went out to the coop and we grabbed some feathers. Some of the ducks had dropped some little feathers, and we're gonna use these as tails for our baby chicks. Little chicken nest, so cute, good job. And then we have our little Easter craft, and you can even close it up, and then when you give it to your friend or your teacher, there's a big surprise inside. Good job, Finley. So we're gonna clean all this up and then dye some eggs, and then I have another surprise for Finley before she goes home. I love coloring Easter eggs, but what I don't love is artificial dyes. But fortunately, you can get really beautiful colors using vegetables you grow in your garden and things you have in your pantry. You can get greens and blues and yellows and pinks. The method for using natural dyes is really the same as for the dye kits that you can buy at the store. If you use white eggs, you're going to get much more bright colors. You can use white chicken eggs, or we have white duck eggs, so I'm going to dye some of those too today. For each color that you're going to make, you just need 4 cups of boiling water, and then you put 2 cups of whatever it is that you're going to be using to dye your eggs, so cabbage or onion skins or beets, and then 2 tablespoons of white vinegar to make the color hold. Then I'll just let that simmer for 15 or 20 minutes until the water has taken on a nice bright color. For the paprika and turmeric, you're just gonna use 2 tablespoons instead of 2 cups. My cabbage water has taken on a nice color. It's cooled down, so I'm ready to strain it over my eggs in the mason jar. Look at that beautiful purple color. And then I'll just put these in the refrigerator overnight, and I'm gonna give all this really great vinegar cabbage to the chickens. They are going to love it. I like to let the eggs sit overnight in the fridge, but you can try taking them out at different times because then they'll come out different shades. But these cabbage, the purple cabbage eggs came out so beautiful. Frozen blueberries gave me this great blue-gray color. Yellow onion peels made a gorgeous orange egg. One of the most exciting is if you mix the purple cabbage with turmeric, because you get gorgeous green eggs like this. And turmeric by itself will give you a bright yellow egg. Lastly, I did some beets for a nice pink egg. Once all your eggs have dried, you can lightly rub them with a coat of olive oil or vegetable oil to give them a nice shiny coating, and then use them for your Easter brunch. Another thing I love about the natural dyes is that you can give the shells to the chickens without worrying about them eating the artificial food coloring. Coming up next, I'm going to show you how to make one of my very favorite Easter recipes. There's nothing like the smell of fresh baked bread. Today, I'm gonna show you one of my favorite recipes to make for Easter. What I've done is combine a traditional Scandinavian sweetbread with an egg bread that's common in especially the Greek and Italian cultures. And a braided bread is something that is common in Scandinavia and is very similar to a Jewish challah bread. I do like to use my bread machine a lot because it's quick and easy, and if I'm busy and it's kind of strapped for time, but I really do enjoy kneading and letting the bread rise. This recipe is great because you can make it all by hand, but if you have a stand mixer, you can kind of make it easier on yourself and do some of the steps in the stand mixer. To get started, I'm going to melt some butter in milk and sugar on the stove. So I'm going to start with a stick of butter. And to that, I'm going to add 2 cups of milk and 2/3 of a cup of sugar. Whisk that a little bit and then put it on the stove just until the butter melts. Now that my butter is melted, I'm going to add my yeast. Just sprinkle it right over the top. I let it cool down a bit. You don't want to kill your yeast, so you just want it to be warm, not really hot off the stove. And this is 2 packets, which is about 2 tablespoons of yeast. Let's pour that right over the top. And I'm just gonna kind of whisk that in and let it sit for about 5 minutes until the yeast starts to get foamy. I have 6 cups of all-purpose flour in this bowl and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. To that, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of cardamom. All kinds of Scandinavian baked goods use it. It has a really unique smell, and it just adds this kind of like warmth to any baked goods that you make. I'm just gonna kind of combine this a little bit. Now that my dough is ready, I'm going to oil a bowl so it doesn't stick, and this is what it's going to rise in. You can use olive oil or vegetable oil. I like to use walnut oil just because it kind of gives it a little bit of a different taste. I don't really want an olive oil tasting sweetbread. But really, any oil will work just so your bread doesn't stick. I'm just gonna put a light coating on my big bowl. Now that my yeast is foamy and ready to go, I'm going to start adding ingredients to the mixer. I'm going to first crack one egg into the mixer bowl. I like to do the egg first in case any shell gets into it. I can pull it out before I've added my other ingredients. Save the eggshell for your chickens. And then I'm going to pour in my yeast right into the bowl. That nice foamy yeast. And then I'm going to put it on low and start adding my flour mixture. Maybe, I don't know, half a cup at a time. And just make sure it gets all mixed in there. And I'm just gonna keep adding my flour mixture a little bit at a time, making sure that each batch is all mixed in before I add more. I'm just gonna stop it for a second and scrape down the side. I've mixed in all my flour and I'm just gonna let it go until it forms a nice cohesive ball. If it is still sticky, you can add flour another tablespoon at a time, just until it makes a nice dough. I'm just going to take that up and then just put my dough into my old bowl. And I'm just going to cover it with plastic wrap and put it in a warm spot. I think I'm gonna put it right next to the wood stove because it's nice and warm there. And I'll let this sit for half an hour till it's about double in size. While the bread is rising, I'm going to just wash some eggs so I can tuck them into the bread to make it a really pretty Easter bread. I generally don't wash my eggs until just before using them. They're laid with an invisible coating called the bloom that keeps out air and bacteria. That way they don't have to be refrigerated. As long as they're not washed, you don't have to refrigerate them. But before using them, you do want to rinse them under warm water. You don't want them sitting in water, so I do put them in a colander and just let the warm water run over them and use my fingers to clean off any mud. Since it is mud season, they do kind of get dirty. So this time of year, I do end up washing them and I just use them right away or refrigerate them. Okay, it's been about a half an hour and the dough is looking beautiful. It easily doubled in size. So now I'm just going to punch it down and knead it for about a minute or two. I'm just gonna put some flour down here so it doesn't stick, a little bit on my hand. Take my dough. It smells so good. This is really the only kneading you need to do for this dough. As I mentioned, if you don't want to do it in the stand mixer, you can make the dough entirely by hand, but that first part in the stand mixer makes it so much easier. Okay, this recipe actually makes 2 braids. You will have one for yourself and one to bring to an Easter brunch or if you're going somewhere for the holiday. So what you want to do is separate the dough in half, and then each half you're going to separate into 3 equal sections. Then I just want to roll each section out into a long rope, about 12 or 14 inches long. So now I've got my 3 ropes and I'm going to braid them on my parchment covered baking sheet. And then starting at one end, just start braiding. And then I kind of pinch the ends together and tuck them underneath. It's easier if you wait till the end to do the top, once you have it all braided. And that looks good. And I'm just gonna set this aside to rise for another 30 minutes. So the bread is looking great. It's gone through its second rise. And at this point, I have a traditional Swedish sweetbread. I'm gonna steal a little something from the Greeks or the Italians, and I'm gonna tuck some eggs into this bread and make it a super fun Easter egg bread. I'm using my own eggs because we have all different colors. You don't need to cook the eggs because they're going to cook as the bread bakes. So I'm just going to take some eggs and sort of pull the braid apart a little bit and tuck them in. For this size braid, I think about 5 eggs is a good number. You'll have enough room for the 5. Just alternating colors. Whisk a tablespoon of milk with an egg to make an egg wash for the top. And I'm just going to brush the bread. I don't want to brush the eggs with this egg wash, but this will give the bread a really nice golden brown color on top. It also gives the sprinkles something to stick to. Traditionally, you would sprinkle the bread with Swedish pearl sugar, which is sort of like a coarse white sugar, but since we're making an Easter bread, I'm gonna use colored sprinkles because it's just gonna make it that much more festive. And then just lastly, I'm going to brush the eggs with a little bit of walnut oil. And again, you can use olive oil or vegetable oil. I just happen to like the walnut oil because it gives it a little bit different taste. And that looks beautiful. Now I'm going to put it in the oven at 375 degrees for about 20 minutes. It will brown pretty quickly on the top, so you do kind of want to watch it. My bread is done. It smells so good and it's gonna taste delicious. I can't wait to cut into it and enjoy a piece with a cup of coffee. I love this fun twist on a traditional braided bread. Tucking the eggs in just makes it perfect for Easter. I'm gonna slice it so everybody gets a little bit of bread and a cooked egg in their slice. For more egg recipes, visit fresheggsdaily.com. We have a really short growing season here in Maine. We generally can't plant seeds in the ground until Memorial Day, so it's really important to get them started in the house prior to that. You can buy commercial seed starter trays, or you can use newspaper or paper towel rolls to make your own. I like to use egg cartons and eggshells. Any of these egg cups are biodegradable, so the seedlings can be planted right into the ground. All I do is save my eggshell halves when we're done making breakfast. Then use a pin and poke a small drainage hole in the bottom of each half, then rinse out the half and remove the membrane. Once the eggshells are dry, I just put them into egg cartons. Next, I'll use a spoon to fill each eggshell with seed starter soil. I like to put at least 3 seeds into each eggshell and then cover them lightly with a little bit more soil. Then water each one. And set the cartons on a towel or tray and put them on a sunny windowsill. If your house isn't really warm or if the air is really dry, you can cover the cartons with plastic wrap to create sort of a greenhouse effect and keep more moisture in. Keep them watered so the soil doesn't dry out, and in a few days you should see your seedlings start to sprout. Once the seedlings have their first set of true leaves, they're ready to be planted, so just crush the eggshell a bit and plant them in the ground. The calcium in the eggshell is really good for the growing plants, especially for those that like extra calcium, like peppers, tomatoes, and eggplant. I like to keep a chart of which seeds I've planted in each carton. It just makes it easier when it comes to planting time. Spring is definitely in the air. Even though we're still buried under snow, we can already see signs of mud season approaching, and after the mud will be baby chick and duckling season, and I'll be planting my garden. So this time of year, it's a new beginning. We love living in Maine because of the seasons, because we can spend the winter planting our garden and picking out breeds of chicks that we want to get, and just kind of really recharging in a way, and then ready to go as soon as the temperatures warm up.